भूषणं श्रीमद्वेंकटनाथार्यं वंदे वेदांतदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारंभां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वंदे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना। भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणु परकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। श्रुतिस्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। करुणारसपूर्णसुधाते कामकोटिपीठाधिपते चरणे शरणं देहि ते चन्द्रशेखर गुरुमूर्ते। करुणारसपूर्णसुधाते कामकोटिपीठाधिपते चरणे शरणं देहि ते चन्द्रशेखर गुरुमूर्ते। अक्षयानन्द चित्शक्ते दक्षिणादिशिवाकृते रक्ष रक्ष मां तपोनिधे चन्द्रशेखर गुरुमूर्ते। अक्षयानन्द चित्शक्ते दक्षिणादिशिवाकृते रक्ष रक्ष मां तपोनिधे चन्द्रशेखर गुरुमूर्ते। A very good evening to the August gathering here. It is indeed a blessing for all of us living in this era, for we have seen 3 consecutive years, 2017, 2018 and 2019, that have marked the birth anniversaries of 3 very unique and contributing philosophers and preceptors of Sanatana Dharma. 2017 saw the 1000th birth anniversary of a philosopher, one of the earliest known social reformers, who believed that social reforms can diligently happen within maintaining the Varnashrama Dharma. His name was Bhagavad Sri Ramanuja, born in a beautiful hamlet called Sri Perumbudur, which currently has been annexed as a part of the larger Chennai area. He lived for a period of 120 years, contributing to one of the epistemological and theological and philosophical systems of Sri Vaishnavism called as Visishtadvaita. 2018 marked the 750th birth anniversary of a peerless preceptor, a sagacious dietitian, a poet extraordinaire, a consummate dramatist, a polyglot he could be called, and a very, very unknown mathematician of great genius that India has seen. He was born in a beautiful hamlet called Tupul in Kanchipuram, and he is known by the name Swami Vedanta Deshika. 2019 marks the 125th birth anniversary of a rishi, a saint, a sannyasi, who reached a state called as perfection, which generally no primitive mortal can. And he lived very close to the tenure what Vedam prescribes. Shatamanam bhavati shatayaf purushaha. He lived very close to 100 years. He just missed it by 4 months. And he's known by the pontiff name as Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, but often referred to as Paramacharya or Mahapariva. Well, the prefix Maha has been added so that we can differentiate between the other two consecutive Peethadipatis, but the word Periva itself has been synonymous with him. So, this lecture, organized by this beautiful forum, is aimed at knowing and understanding a few aspects of what and why a guru is required. Why does the Shastram designate a position called Guru? How many Gurus have we had in the past? And how ideally should a Guru be? And of course, the greatness of the saint called as Sri Paramacharya. While there is a famous shlokam that all of you might know from our Subhashitam, Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This verse venerates a preceptor as the one who is able to diligently annihilate the internal darkness. So how do we refer this word Guru? Incidentally, in Sanskrit, the word Guru also means something which is heavy or big. For example, when the Vedam has to talk about nature, it says, when I say nature, it's just not restricted to us, it could be somewhere beyond. So the universe is also nature to us. Anything the beyond I becomes nature to me. So in the universe, when we look at the earth going around the sun, Vedam says, doesn't it look like an obedient student going around his teacher? So Vedam tells, when the earth goes around the sun, it is called Gaurava Laghava Nyayam. Gaurava Laghava Nyayam. Gauravam in Tamil essentially also denotes the prestige that one holds. Let's keep or park that meaning aside for now. Gauravam comes from the root word Guru. And Guru in Sanskrit means that which is big or huge. That is called Guru. The opposite to Guru is something which is small or petty. Again in English, petty could also mean something which is worthless. But petty here means something which is small, which is Laghu. Incidentally, little, small could also mean a shortcut. That is why Parvati questions Lord Shiva, Kena upayena laghuna Vishnor nama sahasrakam. So laghuna means short. So it comes from the word laghu, which is small. So the small one goes around the big one. The laghu goes around Guru. So laghu becomes Laghava, Guru becomes Gaurava. So Gaurava Laghava Nyayam means the small one goes around the big one, because big is indicated by the word Guru. And you will all be aware that most proper nouns in Sanskrit, feedback verb gives rise to a noun in Sanskrit. For example, let's take the noun that we often say apple in English. Now it is either a proper noun as a fruit or with a electronic gadget. In whichever case, how does the word apple originate? You never thought questions will be asked? Yeah. So well, if you ask me back, I wouldn't know. I don't know. And incidentally, Google Acharya also doesn't know. So most words probably that we use in English, either they are of English origin, they could be of the French, the Latin, the German origin as well. But origin doesn't indicate that it is a verb which is getting converted to a noun. But incidentally, in Sanskrit, any verb will take the form of a noun. But whenever you get the noun from a verb, directly from a verb without any transformation, you will have to reverse the word. For example, when Garuda was born to Vinata and Kashyapa Maharishi, he was very, very hungry. So he went and questioned his father, where will I get food that can satiate my hunger? That's when he said, there are two brothers who were cursed by each other to be born as an elephant, as a tortoise. So you pick them up with your claws and then carry them on to a branch of a banyan tree. This comes in the Adi Parva of Sri Mahabharatam. So Garuda picks the elephant up. So you don't have to ask me what is the size of Garuda. If he is able to catch the elephant with his claw, then probably even the VFX movies that we see today will be put to shame. So he's as huge. So he could manage carrying the elephant and the tortoise in each of his claws and put them onto a branch of a banyan tree. I'm very sure some of you would have visited the big banyan tree which is very close to Bangalore. It's huge. So he managed to carry them. Since he carried heavy objects, the word for heavy is Guru. So the one who carried heavy objects will become Guruda. But whenever you derive words, you will have to reverse the word. So Guruda becomes Garuda. So Guru in Sanskrit essentially means big. It also means the teacher. Then how do we derive the meaning for that word? Gu swa andhakaraha, ru tan nirodhakaha. Gu indicates inner or internal darkness. Ru indicates the process of removing that darkness. So Guru is the one who helps remove the internal darkness. So Guru, this is the root word for the meaning for the word Guru. Now how many Gurus have we had in the past and why do we need Guru? There is a Shastra Vakyam which tells, Magnan uddharate lokan karunyat shastra panina. Incidentally, I am sure all of you would have celebrated the birthday of the pillar's son yesterday. Who is the pillar's son? Nisimha. Trailokyameta dakhilam Narasimha garbham. If we talk of Rama as Kaushalya's son, Krishna as Devaki and Yashoda's son, Urutti Maganai Pirandu Voriravil Urutti Maganai Volirthu Valara, tells Andal about Lord Krishna. Mella mellane bandane gopamma kele mella mellane bandane, tells Purandara Dasa. So if these are the names with which they are associated, then Nisimha is the son of a pillar. So that is why in Sahasranamam we get the name Ajaha Durmarshanaha Shasta Vishrutatma Surariha. Ajaha means the one who is unborn. But Parashara Bhatta gives a beautiful meaning to it in his commentary called Bhagavad Guna Darpanam. Ajaha indicates the one who is unborn. It also indicates Nisimha. For this people questioned, how will Nisimha and the word unborn go together? He said, Ajaha doesn't mean the one who is unborn. It means the one who is not born like us. So if we are born from the amniotic sac ultimately and then get out of our mother's uterus, he is the one who got out differently. So the one who took a different path. There is a cliched statement in the state of Tamil Nadu, En vali tani vali. So the one born in a very different way is called Ajaha. Since everyone is in gestation inside the mother's womb for 3 trimesters, whereas Nisimha stayed inside the pillar, he is the pillar's son. And so pillar becomes the grandmother to Brahma, tells Vedanta Deshika. Sthuna pitamahya bhut. Pitamahi means father's mother. So Sthuna pitamahya bhut. Sthuna, the pillar, became the grandmother to Lord Brahma because he had this blemish of not having had a grandmother for a very long time. He complained to the Lord. The Lord said, I'll give you a unique grandmother. So that is how he was born. So we celebrated the pillar's son's birthday yesterday. When the Lord uses weapons, he is referred to by certain names. So Bhishmacharya puts these names as a compilation at the culmination of Sahasranamam. Devaki Nandana Srishta Kshitishaha Papanashanaha Shankabhrin Nandaki Chakri Sharngadhanva Gadadharaha Rathangapanihi Akshobhya Sarva Praharana Yudaha. These are the names that follow, which tells that he is the one who holds the chakram called Sudarshana. He is the one who holds a conch called as Panchajanya. He is the one who holds the mace called as, what's the Lord's Gadai called? Kaumodaki. He holds his Khadgam called as? Very good. So these are all the weapons that he has. But there is one name that Bhishmacharya ascribes to the Lord. He tells Sarva Praharana Yudaha. So for this name, Adi Shankara in Sahasranama Bhashyam tells, the one who has held Sudarshana, Panchajanya, Kaumodaki, Nandaki and so on, Sharngap, which is his bow, was so bored of it. Don't we keep saying this? Probably during the days of my grandfather, loyalty was so high that you have to serve your employer till you retire. So that was treated as one of those criteria where it meant that he was very grateful. So he joined the Imperial Bank, which was State Bank, and after a tenure of 37 years, he retired from State Bank. So that was, you could keep your collar high, your head high, saying that I've served. But today, if you serve for more than 2 years in a firm, it means you're stagnant, you're redundant, you're either on bench, nobody has given you on-site because of Trump's problem in the US, or probably Europe is having a severe recession, so they're not taking people in. So you're on bench, so you have not changed your job. So when we say that we are getting bored, this is very mundane, I don't want to stick to this job forever. The Lord would have also felt that way. He didn't want to hold these traditional weapons for a very long time. So he thought of getting innovative. So he thought of getting a weapon that has never been used. So Adi Shankara tells, Sarva Praharana Yudaha indicates the one who's bored of his traditional weapons and has resorted to his nails as the weapons. So the one who uses the nails as the weapons is called as Sarva Praharana Yudaha. If you have been searching for a very unique name for your grandson, here is one. Sarva Praharana Yudaha. You may have to get him 2 application forms stuck together so that he is able to fill his name. That's the only flaw that I may see with this name. Everything else is picture perfect. There won't be a competition in this name even on Facebook. So, the Lord who has been traditionally using weapons was so bored of his weapons that he once thought that I need to resort to a different means, because probably people not from the land of Bharatadesham have one question to ask. You seem to prelude every story and every narration that the Lord killed this asura, the Lord killed that asura, the Lord used this weapon. So, why should he be so violent? Is one question that a lot of people do ask. But keeping that question aside, there could be an answer to that. Whether it sounds convincing or not is a different issue. There's an answer to that. So the Lord himself thought, let me go by a different means. Let me try to instill some quintessential knowledge in the minds of people. So he had to be bereft of his traditional weapons and took up another weapon, tells Shastram. What is that weapon? He took the weapon of Shastram and came on this earth as an Acharya. Magnan Uddharate Lokan Karunyat Shastra Panina. Panina, in his pani, in his palm, he held Shastram as the weapon. So Guru becomes the incarnation of the Lord himself. So Vishnu Puranam tells, Na samshayaha, do not doubt him at all. But again comes a counter question. Sir, if we state that Guru is the reincarnation of the Lord, what if the Guru starts telling his followers to treat him as the Lord? Because there are Gurus who tell that as well. So, incidentally in Kali Yuga, what do we do? That is where we have to do a bit of research. See, in spiritual knowledge, nothing comes on a golden platter. People try and try and try, and then only may succeed. Spiritual knowledge cannot be guaranteed nor can be bestowed by just as a cakewalk. I met him just like that, he came and he bestowed knowledge. No, that's not the way spiritual knowledge works. Adi Shankara had to walk to the banks of the river to get the grace of his Acharya Govindapada. Ramanuja had to walk 17 times from Srirangam to Tirukkoshtiyur to get the essence of Ashtakshara mantram. Om iti vyaharetu nama iti paschat narayanayetu parishtat om ityeka aksharam nama iti dve akshare narayanayeti pancha aksharani, tells Upanishad. So to get the essence of Ashtaksharam Mahamantram, he had to walk 17 times, and the 18th time was when one of the 5 acharyas called Tirukkoshtiyur Nambi or Goshtipura Nambi bestowed him with that knowledge, because he said, with each walk of yours, the 17 times, I tried telling you the knowledge that the body and Atma are different. Body is perishable, Atma is not. So I had to give you or convey a message with every walk. So people have strived very hard to get the quintessential knowledge. In Kali Yuga, it becomes very important, if at all we desire spiritual knowledge, to seek a guru who comes in a certain parampara. Of course, we have had some standalone gurus or gurus in silos who have emerged and who have also done very good to the society. But social service by the person doesn't elevate that person to being a guru. There is a difference being that person having constructed hospitals, schools and so on, which is very good social service, but being a guru requires certain steps very high. This is where Shastram tells about one shlokam. Siddham satsampradaye sthiradhiyam anagham shrotriyam brahmanishtam. So the person should have undergone the essence of Vedas. If I say that, well, I slept one night, suddenly I got knowledge, is not the way our traditional acharyas have accepted. This could be debatable. I am sure 3-4 people after the lecture will come and say, oh, you mentioned like this, why? But Shastram tells that Shruti Mayo, only from Vedic learning you get the quintessence. Now we may have questions, sir, when people recite Vedas today, do you know that they know the inner meaning? No, many people may not know the inner meaning, because today the current way of learning Vedas is not the prescribed way. In those days, if you learn Vedas, you will have to learn the Veda Bhashyam as well. You have to learn the meaning of it as well. So today, I don't know how many of them learn the meaning, or people who deliver meaning, how many of them know the original script. So all this is debatable. Nevertheless, Shastram tells that coming in a certain parampara is very, very important. In one such parampara, we have had Ramanuja, Vedanta Deshika and so on. Likewise, one person who walked this planet bestowing knowledge with ultimate grace on his devotees, east, west, north and south, was the great sage of Kanchi called as Kanchi Paramacharya. Now for this, we need to understand, are we in a different time zone? Probably those of them who can speak or understand Tamil will come across this statement very often. Kalam mari pidithu. For how many years have you been hearing this statement? All your years. And I'm sure in the next 50 years people will keep telling this. Kalam mari pidithu. I thought cows were eating grass in Krita Yugam as much as they are doing in Kali Yugam. You got coconuts in coconut trees in Krita Yugam as well as in Kali Yugam. So what has changed is a big question. But people say, no sir, it's not that way. Look at the name itself. Krita in Sanskrit means that which is perfect or very close to perfection. Samskritam means that language that cannot get any more perfect. So the language has the audacity to tell the world, you don't need to make any versions out of me. Version 7, version 2.0. There's no Sanskrit version 2.0 and 3.0 because I'm already perfect. I was born perfect. I live perfect. Probably other languages may require. For example, Shriman Microsoft Word, every time I type FAVOUR, it starts telling me to correct the word and says take the U out. Because American English has some disgust or distaste for you. In most words, wherever you type U, Microsoft Word will correct you. But if I talk to two Prapanna Jana Santana Kutastas, people who propagated Sharanagati Dharma. One was called Wren and the other was called Martin. Wren and Martin, in the colonial English style, tells me that it is F-A-V-O-U-R. I go to the US and say, is this the root? They say, no, it's a route. And then when I get back to India and I say route, what is route? It's root. So, if they say schedule, we say schedule. So probably there is a difference in the way we write. There is a difference in the way we say. So it is thereby being concluded that English is malleable and ductile. So you can do anything with the language, and the language allows, because it has very few grammatical rules guiding it. Whereas Sanskrit is bestowed with 4,500 plus sutras of Panini in his grammar, each sutra being commented upon in the Mahabhashya by Patanjali Bhagavan, so much so that the language doesn't give any space for the reader to be innovative. It says, I am perfect. You like me, accept me the way I am. So Samskritam means that which is perfect. So people say Krita Yugam means perfection. But look sir, this is Kali Yugam. Maybe times have changed. When people were caught in scams, they were punished instantly. Then here probably it takes years or never they are punished. So this is where we find the difference. As such, Kalam has remained quite the same. But in that Kalam, of course, we have had great sages like Kashyapa Maharishi. We have had great sages like Bharadwaja Maharishi, Valmiki Maharishi, Vyasa Bhagavan, Shuka Brahmam. So if you talk about Vishnu Sahasranamam and its author, we say, look at Vyasa. He is not a standalone person. He comes in the lineage of the great Vasishtha, Vyasam, Vasishtha Naptaram, great grandson of Vasishtha. Who's Vasishtha? He was the tutor and preceptor to the great Rama. Right? If Rama has to go to an Ivy League like university called Vasishtha, it means a lot. So Vasishtha used to boast that Rama is my student. So Vishwamitra had this grudge that I can match Vasishtha in every aspect but not this, by not having Rama as my student. So he took him on an internship. So 6 days Rama was asked to escort, and that is where he protected the Yagavatika. Dinakaran vayatilakam divyagadhi suta savana vanarachita subahu mukhavadham ahalya pavanam anaghamisha chapabhangam Janaka Suta Pranesham Gana Kupita Bragurama Garvaharamita Saketam Bhavayami Raghuramam. So he went on an internship. Probably when I studied, I'm sure how many of you can relate, internship used to happen in either my uncle's or my father's company. I used to sit at home and get a certificate, but Rama was very righteous. Dharmo Vigrahavan. So he annihilated Tataka, killed Subahu, drove away Maricha, gave emancipation to Ahalya, broke the bow of Lord Shiva in the assembly of Janaka Maharaja called Siradhwaja, and then got Sita, because else his curriculum vitae was pretty empty. So this was the only way that he could have married Sita. But Vishwamitra, being a sage, wanted to match the caliber of Vasishtha. So he said, Vasishtha has tutored him. So let me take the credit of fixing up the marriage of Rama. So that is why he ensured that after the internship, he didn't bring him back to Ayodhya. It was a detour. He took him to Nepal, got the marriage fixed, and then. So he wanted all the courtesy and the credit to go to him. Vishwamitra is one very interesting rishi, because he wanted to match Vasishtha, because Vasishtha was the one who tutored Rama, who is the creator of this world. So he wanted to be a creator too. So he saw a Vyaja Vritti. He saw Vyajam means a cause, a reason. He saw Trishanku as one of the causes to create another world. So when the other world was created, everything was cloned, like the dolly, right? Dolly was the first clone. So you had a clone for everything. So if you had one outer ring road here, you had another one there. If you had one Alsur here, you had another one there. So everything was duplicated. That is when Brahma went and said, see, I own the copyright to this world. He fought like Ilayaraja. He said, see, I own copyright to this. Out of my world, and those few things alone will not have a clone in my world. The rest of the things will see a clone, a duplication in my world. In the stars, the Nakshatras, 27 or 28? 28. How many of you say 28? 1, 2, minority. But you have a lot of value in our country. So which is the majority? 27. See, 27 is the stars with which we associate our horoscopes with. But the 28th star is Abhijit, which does not form a part of our horoscope. Well, this has been put in the Virat Swarupam and Bhagavatam. That's a different topic. Now, amongst the stars, one star did not get duplicated, and that star was Anuradha or Anusham. So that star alone is unique, for it doesn't see a duplication in Trishanku's world. That is why the great sage of Kanchi was born in this beautiful star called as Anuradha or Anusham. While we have seen the beauty of Vasishtha, who was the great-grandfather of Vyasa, his son was Shakti Maharishi, a very, very diligent one, a prodigy, but he didn't live long because of the animosity that Vishwamitra shared with Vasishtha. So this son of Vasishtha was killed by a Brahmarakshas. So the wife of Shakti was carrying Shakti's child when her husband was killed. So this child born to Shakti was called Parashara, who is the cause of the great Puranam called Vishnu Puranam. Vishnu Puranam holds lot of significance in all the three philosophies, which is Advaita, Visishta Advaita and Dvaita. In all the three mathas and all the commentaries of Acharyas by Adi Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhvacharya or Ananda Tirtha, whenever in their commentaries they mention Puranam Ukte, when they say the Purana says, it means Vishnu Puranam. They will not say Vishnu Puranam. That is why Bhagavad Pada, when he tells Sahasranamam also, he doesn't tell which Sahasranamam. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyayam Shripati Rupa Majasram. He doesn't say Geyam Bhagavad Gita Vishnu Nama Sahasram. He doesn't use the prefix Vishnu, because he says the word Sahasranama means Vishnu Sahasranama. The word Puranam means Vishnu Puranam. That is why even in Shankara Matham, when they say Purana Pathanam, they will start reciting Vishnu Puranam. So Vishnu Purana was created or compiled by the grandson of Vasishtha called as Parashara, and this Parashara gave rise to another great sage called as Vyasa, who's called Krishna Dvaipayana, who happened to bucket the Vedas. He did not create or separate, he tried to bucket. Rig in Rig Vedam, Yajuhu in Yajur Vedam, Sama in Sama Vedam. Have I missed something? What is it? Because in all our Shastras it is called Veda Trayimayi. There are only 3 Vedas. Rig, Yajuhu, Samam. Certain sections of all the 3 Vedas were compiled to create the 4th one called as Atharvana Veda. That is why you generally don't find in Abhivadaye people telling Atharvana Shakha Dhyayi. You always hear people, majority belong to Yajur Vedam. Next followed by 20% is Sama Vedam. 5% is Rig Vedam. Very rarely you will come across Atharvana Vedam. Now Vyasa was the one who managed to separate these Vedas. Then you had Vyasa's son called as Shuka Brahmam, who gave the great Srimad Bhagavatam. They were all rishis. But when I talk of all the rishis, we are able to relate to them because we might have heard of their greatness or significance in lectures such as this. But we might have not seen them in reality. But one person who was a personification of Vyasa, Shuka, Vasishtha, Parashara was of course the great sage of Kanchi. So this great sage of Kanchi was regarded as the personification of Vedic quintessence. When Kanchi Paramacharya took up the position of being the pontiff of Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham, there was a slight void period because the predecessors to Kanchi Periyava had passed away very, very suddenly. So this left a huge void, and when he took up this position at the age of 13, if I'm right, he took up this position at the age of 13. And then he had to undergo tutelage of Shastram. This is one slight difference that you see between the sannyasis of Advaita Siddhantam and Visishtadvaita Siddhantam. In Visishtadvaita, after Brahmacharyam they become Grihasthas, and after Grihasthashramam they come to Sannyasashramam. Incidentally, both in Advaita and Visishtadvaita, we rarely find, or probably this has gone into the extinct phenomenon, which is Vanaprasthashramam, because there is no Vanam. Where is the Vanam that you see? So there is no Vanam to do a Prasthanam. Vanaprasthashramam was that transition period where you will ready yourself to become a sannyasi. For us, the word sannyasi means the one who is leaving his family life. Wrong. To be a sannyasi is the toughest in this world. People we often hear say when they have family problems, na sannyasi aida podren. Sannyasi aganam na. There are a lot of things. Even if you are super hungry, you cannot cook for yourself. A sannyasi cannot cook for himself. A sannyasi cannot perform Agni Karyam. A sannyasi cannot contaminate the water. There are hundreds of rules for sannyasis. So it is very easy to probably come up with the statement, na sannyasi aida poren. Probably when you look at the life of Kanchi Paramacharya, you will realize how perfectly he lived to being a sannyasi. But being a sannyasi is very tough. Ramanuja comments in his Brahma Sutram that being a sannyasi in Kali Yugam is the toughest. So, we have had Kanchi Paramacharya who took over the Peetham of Kanchi Kamakoti, and he studied at a beautiful hamlet called as Mahendra Mangalam. Have you heard of the Mahendra Mangalam? It comes very close to Musiri near Trichy. So he studied there, and imagine in 6 years he was able to grasp the essence of the Vedantam and Vedam. 6 years is such a short period, that too for a boy who has to take up sannyasa ashrama dharmam. It was just not tutelage for him. It was also conforming to the rules of being a sannyasi. He took up that because his teacher cannot sit on the top pedestal. Teaching a sannyasi is not easy because you cannot sit higher than your student unless and until you are a sannyasi. In sannyasis, when they look at each other, they will have to look at how many chaturmasyas they have done. Have you heard of chaturmasyam? That is one period generally that correlates with the monsoon period that a tropical country like India sees. So during chaturmasyam, sannyasis do not venture out because they believe that if they walk with barefoot or with padukas, they may end up harming little creatures. So they will stay put for 4 months in a restricted area in one place, and after the Vyasa Puja is done, then they will get out. It's called Utthanam. They will get out of it. The remaining 8 months they have to keep going here and there because they cannot stay in any place for more than 3 nights. A sannyasi technically cannot stay because the moment you stay, then you will feel like having an attachment to that place. Then you will find good restaurants here, very good road, good investment, total environment building very close by, good trees here. So you may want to invest, and then you will start getting interested in a Grihasthashramam's life. So more than 3 nights a sannyasi should not stay. But only there is an exception for this Chaturmasyam period. So if one sannyasi meets the other, the one who has got lesser Chaturmasyams has to fall at the feet of the one who has got more Chaturmasyams. It does not go by age. Because once they take up sannyasa ashramam, that age, starting age becomes 0. Till then, for example, if I have to give a current day understanding, if you're an engineer, you've been working in programming for 6 years, then you end up doing your MBA in finance, and then you start your career in investment banking, the first 6 years is treated as 0. Correct? Likewise, you have to start your career afresh. So it was very tough teaching a sannyasi. Moreover, the teacher cannot sit at a higher pedestal. They have to sit at the same or something lower. But if they do it as a lower pedestal, then they are going against the Guru Sishya Dharma. Incidentally, there is one beautiful book on Advaita Siddhantam which Kanchi Mahaperiyava wanted to learn. But that book was not in usage for a very long time, and the person who could decipher the nuances of that particular Sanskrit work, which was very, very terse Sanskrit, was one who's my Paramacharya, who's my Acharya's Acharya, called Uttamur Veeraraghavacharya, Uttamur Swami. So he was a Vaishnava, and Kanchi Paramacharya wanted to learn from him. So initially, my Paramacharya, my great guru, was a bit hesitant, because to teach a sannyasi you cannot be at a higher pedestal. But that is where Kanchi Paramacharya said, let us draw a screen and you sit on one side, I will sit on the other side. Both of us will be unaware where we are sitting, and then we can learn. So this was one way that he tried to learn the nuances of that work. I think it was Ishta Siddhi or something. I don't remember the exact work. Now getting back to the life of Paramacharya, Paramacharya took up, he was one of those unique sannyasis in Bharata Desham who took up Padayatras Asetu Himachalam for more than twice or thrice. One Vijaya Yatra, he went to this beautiful place called as Varanasi. Varanasi is called Kashi. And incidentally, he shares, or the person who is standing there in that constituency shares the star of Paramacharya, which is Anusham. So, Varanasi is one place where two rivers meet. There is a confluence of two rivers. Prayagraj is even more important in Shastram, because out of 7 rivers, you have 3 rivers meeting up there. Gangescha Yamune Chaiva, Godavari Saraswati, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri. Out of the 7 Moksha Dayini rivers, you've got 3 rivers that meet up in Triveni Sangamam. Whereas Varanasi is one place where 2 tributaries to Ganga meet. But something very unique about Varanasi is, that is the only place where Ganga runs from south to north. It doesn't run from north to south, it runs from south to north. And the only other river which can match Ganga of Varanasi is Kaveri. There is a small hamlet near Karur called Mohanur. And in Mohanur, Kaveri runs from south to north. So it is called as Dakshina Varanasi. So Varanasi was one place where Kanchi Paramacharya wanted to start his Vijaya Yatra with. But that is where a big obstacle came. His assistants from Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham, imagine the days, I'm talking about 1920s, when there was absolutely no facility for one to send a message immediately, and probably an immediate message which was called telegram or tandi was just meant to communicate that somebody was dead. So people will always wait for the telegram to be opened before bath. They don't have to bathe again. So tandi vandurtunale poitan artham. So that was the only means that was meant for communication. So he had to go up to Kashi. So there was a banner that was meant to be put up in Kashi, that Kanchi Kamakoti Peethadipati 68th Pontiff Chandrasekharendra Saraswati. That time he was not called Mahapariva. So he had to come. For that, there were certain prefixes. For example, when we tell in Visishta Advaita, Sri Vaishnavism, we say Srimad Vedama Arga Pratisthapana Acharya Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Bhagavad Ramanuja Siddhantaka Nirdharana Sarvabhauma. Then we continue the titles of that Acharya, be it the Pontiff of Ahobila Mutt or Andavanashramam. Likewise, in Kamakoti Peetham, there is a prefix which they add, which was initially bestowed upon the first person called Adi Shankara. The name is Jagat Guru. So the assistants in Kamakoti Peetham told people with whom they were coordinating in Kashi or Varanasi, saying, you mention in the banner Jagat Guru, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati is coming. But those people had some inhibition. They said, we are fine with Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, but we are not fine with the prefix Jagat Guru. These people asked, why? They gave a reason. These assistants went and came and informed Periva, saying that we can go up to Kashi, but in the banner they have some restriction that they cannot use the word Jagat Guru. See, normally in any instance such as this, either the person will say, okay, let's forego the word. But if you forego the word, then you're doing injustice to your previous acharyas who have retained the word Jagat Guru. But if you say that I insist that they have to put Jagat Guru, then you're trying to thrust your thought upon somebody, which the modern world doesn't like. They want reasoning for everything. Here, Periyava asked, why do they have inhibitions about the word Jagat Guru? They said, see, people in Kashi feel Jagat Guru, the word means the one who is the guru of this Jagat, the one who is the teacher to this world or even universe. Kashi people feel that Kashi is an integral part of Bharatadesham, and Bharatadesham is an integral part of Bhumi, and Bhumi is an integral part of the universe. So they feel that those scholars are not ready to accept you as the guru. So when you don't become the guru, then you cannot call yourself Jagat Guru. They are ready to accept you as a saint, but not as a guru for them. Immediately Kanchi Paramacharya asked, oh, they have construed the meaning through Tatpurusha Samasam, is it? What is Tatpurusha Samasam? See, in Sanskrit, when you bring two nouns together to create a super noun. For example, Garuda. I spoke about Garuda 18 minutes back. You remember? Yeah. So, Garuda is called as Vedatma. Yamunacharya indicates Kantaste Purushottamaha Panipatihi Shayyasanam Vahanam Vedatma Vihageshwaraha Yavanika Maya Jaganmohini Brahma Ishadi Surabrajaha Sadaitaha Tvaddasa Dasi Ganaha Shrihi Ityevacha Namate Bhagavati Bhrumakkatham Stvam Bayam. So he tells that Garuda is the celestial vehicle to the Lord. But the word for Garuda is Vedatma. Do you know what is special about tomorrow? Tomorrow is Sunday, holiday, voting day. What else? Tomorrow is the Garuda Seva of Kanchipuram. Kanchi Garuda Seva is the most famous. Muthuswami Dikshitar tells, Neela Meghajita Shariram Niratishayanandakaram Kanchi Nagara Viharam Kali Rakshita Choram. Varadaraja is the one who is being protected by his sister called Kali, tells Muthuswami Dikshitar. Can you tell me where it happens? In Kanchipuram, if you go to Kamakshi Sannidhanam, after having the darshan of Kamakshi, you go through the back door. Then you will ask the priest, can I please see Lord Vishnu? He will open one door. When he opens the door, you will find one small Divyamangala Vigraham of Lord Vishnu who is called Adi Keshava, and perpendicular to him is Mahalakshmi called Anjali Devi. This small Divyamangala Vigraham, it is not even a Garbhagraham. It is besides the Garbhagraham of Kamakshi. This is one of the 108 Divyadeshams. This Divyamangala Vigraham, this is called Tirukkalvanur by Alvar. The Lord is called Kalva. It is believed in Puranam that Kamakshi, who is the sister-in-law to Mahalakshmi, both of them had a good relationship, surprisingly. So while they were talking with each other, Lord Vishnu eavesdropped, it seems. So that very moment, his sister Kamakshi turned the ear of her brother and said, "Yen Kalvavoni, are you that robber thief who's trying to eavesdrop?" So he is called as Kalva. And she is the one who protects the Lord as Yellai Deivam, tells Shastram. Kali Rakshita Choram Kalidosha Haratitha Prabhava Guru Guhadinatam Kapila Shukadi Sannuta Garuda Vaharudham Varada Rajamupasmahe. So when we talk of Kanchi Kamakshi, Kanchi Varada, Garuda Seva, the word Vedatma also comes. Vedatma is the name for Garuda. You should remember this. But how is this word derived? The one who is the Atma to the Vedas is called Vedatma. This is called Tat Purusha Samasam. When you use, am I giving too much of Sanskrit class here? No, okay. You have to get adjusted to this lecture. Vedatma. The one who is the Atma to the Vedam is called as Vedatma. Why? Because Shastram tells that Garuda is the personification of Vedic sound. I'm sure all of you will be experts in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavatam, you come across this daughter of daughter of Swayambhuva Manu called as Devahuti, who's married to Kardama Prajapati. They produce one great son who's the incarnation of the Lord called as Kapilacharya. Maharishihi Kapilacharyaha Kritagnaha Medhinipatihi. So when the Lord appears in front of Kardama Prajapati, you know what Shukabrahmam says. You will have to read the lines and read between the lines in Bhagavatam to understand the beauty. He tells that Kardama was able to open the eyes not because he was able to see the Lord, because he heard of Samavedam being recited, tells Shukabrahmam. He heard Samavedam being recited. Where was Samavedam being recited? Because when Garuda flew, the flutter of his wings carried Samavedic sound. So the eyes of Garuda is called Gayatri Mantram, Netram Gayatra Muchehe. So Vedatma is Garuda. So the one who is the Atma to Vedam is called Vedatma. This is called Tat Purusha Samasam. The other meaning of Vedatma is the one who has got Vedam as his Atma is also called Vedatma. புரியுறதா? வேதத்துக்கு ஆத்மா எவனோ அவன் வேதாத்மா. எவன் வேதத்தை ஆத்மாவாக கொண்டுள்ளானோ அவனுக்கும் வேதாத்மா.